With my firstborn, I was very curious, very interested to parent differently from the way I was raised, from the way conventional நம்ம பார்த்தது அடிச்சு மிரட்டி திட்டி வளர்த்துனதை தாண்டி I wanted to do something different. I really wanted a vaginal birth for my firstborn. It was almost like a dream. ஏன் ட்ரீம்னா அம்மா சொன்னது, அம்மாவுக்கு நான் எப்படி பிறந்தேன், அண்ணா எப்படி பிறந்தாங்கன்னு கேட்டு கேட்டு வளர்ந்து அதே ஸ்டோரிஸ் I've heard a lot around me. So I've always dreamt of a vaginal birth. At that time I didn't know anything else. I just knew that this was normal. This is the way children are to be born. And I had a very normal pregnancy, a very healthy, normal pregnancy. So that was what we were expecting. But you know, I had a abdominal birth, C-section irunduchu. So at that moment I felt like I was a huge failure. Somehow my body failed me. How could this happen to me? It's almost like, you know, you prepare so well for your exam. How can I fail in an exam? அப்படிங்கிற அந்த ஒரு aspect I always had after my birth. So whatever I did with my firstborn was me trying to compensate for that birth experience. So okay, I didn't get the birth that I want. Ini பாரு how I'm going to raise my child. I will do everything according to the book. So I became எப்படி சொல்றது, perfectionistயும் தாண்டி I became very obsessed with parentingனு சொல்லணும். Single handedly, like, you know, I will do everything for my child அப்படின்னு சொல்லி ரொம்ப ஃபோக்கஸ்டா let it be breastfeeding, let it be baby led weaning, let it be cloth diapering, whatever concept I learn, அது அப்படியே ஒரு 100% extremeக்கு I wanted to apply to my child. So that was about my first birth. Through my journey of raising my first child, I came across a concept called gentle birthing, natural birthing, non-medicalized birthing, non-interventional birth. அப்படிங்கிறத I came across through Priyanka from Birth Village in Cochin. நம்மளோட birthingலலாம் வந்து you don't have a lot of choice. இப்படி போனா இப்படி இவ்வளோதான். It's a very restricted place. But I was very fascinated when I got to know that such kind of birthing is possible in India அப்படிங்கும்போது. And it's quite close by அப்படின்னு தெரியும் போது அப்போவே I made up my mind that if I have a second child, which I was very sure I'm going to have, if I have a second child, it's going to be this kind of a birth. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I knew that this was what I wanted. So throughout my after knowing about this, everything aligned for me is what I should say. And more I started researching. I was very intrigued by the idea that how we birth our children plays a very important role in how we parent them. So if a mother, if a family as a whole, if a father and mother go through an informed birth, not necessary, the outcome of the birth is not necessary. It can be it can be a vaginal birth, it can be a cesarean, it can be a intervened birth also, like there are interventions during birth. All of that is also okay, but what is important is how the mother and the father feel during the birth impacts how they raise their child. So if you feel like you've been forced, you don't have a choice, avanga solradhu out of fear, if we have done something and later on if we carry a lot of regret, I see that reflecting a lot in the way we raise children. If we feel out of control, powerless, helpless during our birth, we tend to take a lot of control over our children later on. So the more and more controlled we become with our children, the way we parent them is totally different. It becomes very conditional also. So the more I read about it, researched about it, I started getting many insights, and I was very sure that I wanted a very gentle, respectful birth for my second one. Initially when I started, it was all about me. எனக்கு வந்து போன பர்த்ல அது கிடைக்கல, ஸோ எனக்கு அடமெண்ட்டாக இந்த பர்த்ல எனக்கு வேணும் அப்படின்னு ஆரம்பிச்சது. Gradually I started seeing why that kind of a birth was very important for the child also. How the gentle transition into this world helps them a lot into the adults they are going to become. ஏன்னா இன்னைக்கு if you see births in the hospitals, not just the hospital for that matter, anywhere, ஒரு baby which is in the womb for 9 months, very safe, warm, secure, always connected to the mother in a lot of darkness. There's not a lot of light for the child inside the womb. Sounds பார்த்தா ரொம்ப muffled-ஆ இருக்கும். ஏன்னா இத்தனை லேயர் தாண்டி சவுண்டு போகணும்னா the child is in that kind of an environment. But நம்ம birthக்கு அப்புறம் whatever kind of birth it is, the first thing that we do with children is expose them to a lot of light. அந்த தியேட்டரில் இருக்க லைட்டோ, லேபர் ரூமில் இருக்கிற லைட்டோ, immediately there's a lot of light, and then there's a lot of noise. Everybody is talking, and then the first thing that they do is take the baby and wipe the baby. First thing is separation from the mother, immediate separation, lot of touching on the skin, lot of noise. So எல்லா சென்ஸ் ஆர்கன்ஸும் திடீர்னு அந்த சைல்டுக்கு வந்து ஒரு பயங்கரமான ரஃப்பாக இருக்கும் அந்த transition. So that aspect also encouraged me to go for a very gentle, respectful transition for the baby. For the second child, when birth story is entirely different, but after birth what happens, that 1 hour after birth what happens is what was very, very fascinating for me. The child was not removed from me, child was kept on me. என் மேலே எடுத்து அப்படியே என் மேலே என் நெஞ்சில் வச்சுட்டாங்க. The baby was on my skin. There was absolutely no noise. Everybody stopped talking. Birth அப்பவே there was not much talking. அதுக்கப்புறம் absolute quietness, lights எல்லாமே dim, everything was dim, there were only candles burning. So அந்த ஒரு environment is what I really think is important for children. And how I feel during the birth impacts how I react with my child later on. So comparison பார்த்தோம்னா, like I said with Sarang and the firstborn, I am trying to compensate for my powerlessness and helplessness during my birth. So whatever I do with him is me trying to show that I am a good enough mother. What I left out in my birth, I'm trying to prove to myself and to the world that no, just because I had a cesarean doesn't make me any less. பாருங்க நான் எப்படி குழந்தை வளர்த்தி காமிக்கிறேன், see how I'm capable of, அந்த ஆங்கிள் இருந்தது. But with Sarah, I'm very, very relaxed. I don't have to question myself. My capacity and capability in my body, in myself, is much more for Sarah. I'm not saying I got that because she came through my vagina. It's not that. Even if I had a cesarean in that kind of an environment, I'm sure it's going to be the same. So what was the deciding factor was the amount of control and power I felt during the birth making decisions. So every step of the way, I was the one who was deciding if I wanted internal exam, if I wanted a PV, அப்படிங்கிறது நான் தான் டிசைட் பண்ணேன். Should they break my bag of waters, let's wait. So my decision to wait was respected. So every step of the way I felt that I was powerful. I was in control of what is happening. I didn't feel like I was overstepped in any place. So that kind of a birth means that my relationship with my daughter is very solid. I don't have to control her in any way. I'm able to let her be herself. I'm able to see her as an individual from me who's very powerful, who I can coexist with her without trying to overpower her or over control her. So I think that is very important for the next generation. So we talk a lot about inner child healing, about childhood traumas, about addiction, so many things we talk about today. Awareness irukku on the space la. I feel we also need to talk a lot about births, about how we birth our children, how the mother and the father and the family is supported during births, how it plays a very important role. Because pinadi poi paakumbodhu, for me birthing is a very important step in a family's life. In a woman's life it's even more important, because the way we birth transforms our body, our mind, everything full of it. It plays a very important role. A life of a woman can be divided as before birth, after her birth experience அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி, and it's something that we will carry with us till our death. inside a woman's body. So I feel a lot of awareness needs to happen around birthing awareness around the choices that we have in our birth experience. After Sarah's birth experience, I'm a much more confident woman. I feel much more powerful about my femininity. We are in a society which shames and judges women a lot. There is a shame. There is some patriarchal system. There is some shaming around womanhood. But after this birth, after Sarah's birth, after this experience, I feel so strong in my body. I feel so powerful. I feel so capable. Like, your birth I have done. I've come through that. இதுக்கு மேல என்னடா இருக்கு போகுது வாழ்க்கையில இப்படி ஒரு experience I've come through. So I'm pretty sure I can face anything and everything in life. So my knowing that has insecurities in my body, around my relationships, around the world in general, the trust that I have around humanity. When at your most vulnerable state, when there are 4-5 people standing around you and holding you with a lot of gentleness and respect, you can do it, you are capable அப்படின்னு ஒரு 4 பேர் சொல்லும்போது, if they're holding ஒரு சப்போர்ட்டாக நம்மளுக்கு நிற்கும் போது, definitely it transforms you as a woman. So yeah, I see that I'm a much more I wouldn't say I'm much more gentler in any way, because I see my myself coming out more. I'm more fierce. பண்ண முடியாது Sarah. No, my boundaries are much more stronger after Sarah. I wouldn't say I've become more subtle in my life. அப்படி சொல்ல மாட்டேன். I'm calm, but at the same time I'm fierce. So people who have experienced that will know what I'm talking about. You can be calm, but also you can stand up and voice out what you want with your children, with relationships around you. There is no anger in me. There is anger, but not that kind of a hurtful anger, that how could this happen to me. I had that angst in me. I did everything by the book, but why did I not get that birth experience? Longing I've always had. When somebody talks about their birth story, about how they had a wonderful birth, I always used to feel very left out, very jealous of their birth story. So after her birth, a lot of that has left me, and I feel much more settled in my body, in my life, around my children. I've been somebody who's always had irregular bowel movements. So I will poop only 1.5 days once or 2 days once. It's not that I'm holding it back, but just that the feeling to poop will not come, and I've never taken it seriously that it's important to eliminate everyday morning. But before her birth, I started noticing that there's a pattern and I need to work on it. I changed my diet, I changed my lifestyle, I went more raw, more vegan, everything I've done. So I almost did everything that was anybody told me to do. Have kadka pudi, have this, have that, all diet changes. Ellame I've incorporated in certain degrees. I've been consistent, exercise pannanu, breathing exercise pannanu, yoga, everything I've tried. Nothing changed. But suddenly, magically, after this birth, I'm somebody who, the moment I get up, I am eliminating. So that I see is a huge transformation in me. Somehow I feel all of my past, on multiple levels, not just on the physical level, my emotional, psychological fears, a big part of me has left me after the birth. I see that as a reflection when I poop every day morning. Definitely see a lot of scope that parenting can bring in, in letting go of our past. Genuine. ரொம்ப நம்ம டீப்பாக யோசித்து அதை கான்ஷியஸாக பண்ணாட்டியுமே on many levels I feel that our past is relived and let go. So when say for example I am somebody, when in my childhood I am somebody who was not listened to a lot, like பிஸியாக இருந்தாங்க, பேரண்ட்ஸ் வேறு அன்அவைலபிள், எனக்கு தேவையான அந்த ஒரு அட்டென்ஷன் அண்ட் கனெக்ஷன் எனக்கு கிடைக்காத ஒரு பர்சனாக இருக்கேன். ஐம் சம்படி ஹூ டிடன்ட் கெட் the connection when I wanted it. Apdi, or if I'm somebody who came through that kind of a childhood, and if I'm trying to be more respectful to my child and trying to give him or her the connection. So I see that when I am being available to my child, I am also letting go of my past. So in a way, I'm also being available to myself. So what I give to my child, I am understanding that, oh, okay, if I can parent my child, I can also to some degree parent the inner child in me. So I always say in my sessions, in wherever I speak, I say I have 3 children. First is a small version of Gotha Hari Priya, then Sarangan, and then Saravali. So I always parent myself with a lot of gentleness and respect, and then I parent both of them. So this equation works. If you are somebody who's gone through birth wounding or to the extreme of birth trauma, I always see that there is a lot of hope still, that you can speak to therapists, you can take help, you can do body work, you can work on your body, there are so many people now who are open to giving birth related information or healing and the madri. So speaking to them helps, and the way you respond to your children, the way you are interacting with your children also helps you more than it helps the child. So we always say respectful parenting is for the future generation. It helps future generation be more kind and respectful. It builds a better world. Appadiங்கிற ஒரு angle is there. It's definitely there 100%. But more than the child, it's very selfishly for us also, for parents also, because the more and more you are gentle and respectful towards the child, you can be the same to your own self. And who deserves the most respect today, in my point of view, is that it's the mother. It's the mother who is bridging the past and the future. So when you are respectful towards the child, future is taken care of, but also your past. So along with your healing, you also heal your mother's womb, your grandmother's womb, her mother's womb. So for multiple generations backwards also a lot of healing happens. For Karthi, he's somebody who can accept things easily in life, but for him, after the first birth, he always felt that he couldn't stand up for me in the birth. He couldn't support me in the kind of birth that I wanted. So that regret has always been part of him, even though he is never openly spoken about it. I always know that he feels very bad about me feeling very left out and like a failure. But this time he was there throughout. He was the support person in the birth room. He supported me. He was there every step of the way. So he got a lot of closure, that he was able to give me, support me in this kind of a birth. Give me would be a very wrong word to use. He didn't give me the birth, but he made sure that he supported me in the decisions that I took, which I feel is very, very important. So, and the bonding that Karthi has with Sara is very different, because we've always spoken about this kind of a birth for Sarangan also. He's always told me, I want to be in the birth room. First Kansavanap, you know how as young parents we have big dreams around birthing, around bonding, around marriage. So that we've always dreamt about. So when this happened, his bonding with her is much more solid, like it is for me. I see him, sometimes even raising his voice, like not in a harsh way, but standing up for what he wants and say, no, you cannot do that. But for him, for Sarangan, he also had the same problem. He was very out of the way poite, he was being nice to him, when inside he was not feeling good. So there was a lot of conflict within him also while raising the first one. But with the second one, we are very firm and direct. We're like, no, you cannot do that, you cannot do that. So we are very confident about our role as parents for the second child, is what I'll say. And one more point is, our intimacy after such a birth is definitely very different. When I say intimacy, I don't talk just about the sexual intimacy, but even the emotional intimacy that we have, the amount of respect that we have for each other has grown immensely. The way he sees me as a woman, the way he sees other women, the respect that he has towards his mother, my mother, feminine energy in general is abundant now. It's like how much you all have to go through to bring out a life. So his respect towards mother nature, everything, he is much more aware now. From my point of view, my respect for him is immense because he stood by me. He made that decision that no matter what happens, I will stand by you. Because our birth was like an eloped birth. எப்படி ஓடி போய் கல்யாணம் பண்ணிப்பாங்களோ அந்த மாதிரி we literally had to fight against everybody in the family and then take this decision of birthing. This is the way I want to birth in a strong as one. I couldn't be the only one who said that. Without his support, none of this would be possible. We don't get a lot of time because we have 2 kids, so private time appadin paatha is very less. He is also extremely busy with work, so the time that we get is very less, but the connection that we feel is very, very solid. So even if we speak like for 10 minutes, 5 minutes after the kids go to sleep, it's a very taken for granted kind of connection, which I find very comfortable. People usually have a problem with, oh, I'm taken for granted, but at this stage in my life, I want to be taken for granted. I want them, I want to take them for granted because there's so much comfort in it, in knowing that no matter what, this person is there for me அப்படிங்கிறது. So you don't have to be, we are more like இந்த டீனேஜ் லெவலாம் தாண்டி இந்த கொஞ்சம் ஏஜ்டா சீசன்டான லவ் ஸ்டோரிஸ் இருக்கும்ல, will become like that. After Sarah's birth, I see him also, what we change, like we are more solid, we are more grounded, we are more firm about what we want and how we say it. It's helped him also a lot. So he's also able to be his real self more. So I've become less controlling towards him, which means he is much more open about who he is, which has helped him also a lot. That, oh, okay, முதல்ல we were respectful தான், but that idea of me trying to push my ideology on him has reduced a lot. So it was a nice cage, I should say. இப்போ I feel we are much more free, but I wouldn't say completely free because I've come with my own conditioning, but the birth has definitely helped me see, oh, these are my conditioning. It has made me very aware that, oh, நான் இங்கெல்லாம் control பண்றேன், இங்கெல்லாம் trying to push myself onto the kids அப்படிங்கிறது. Very big part of parenting we think is birthing, we think is the pregnancy, because the amount of glorification and information around pregnancy and birthing is a lot now. So much awareness is there. The moment somebody becomes pregnant, everybody is ready to talk about health, nutrition, sleeping positions, how to take care of your pregnancy. So much is spoken about, but that's only for 9 months and the labor is only for, let's say, 3-4 days maximum. Okay, but what is a big portion of parenting is postpartum. What happens after the child is born, and the 2-3 years after the child is born is what is very important. And I don't talk about parenting from the child's point of view. It's very important for the mother, the person who has given birth. The world which takes care of her during pregnancy completely neglects her after birth. Suddenly she is non-existent and only the child is very important for everybody. So she doesn't exist at all. Her needs and cares are only for her to eat so that she can feed the baby. That's the amount of care that we give a postpartum mother. You eat well, you drink a lot of milk, only then you will be able to feed the baby. If you don't feed the baby will cry. This is the amount of awareness that we have. But I feel that the way a mother parents, like your question, gentle, respectful parenting also has a lot to do with how the mother was cared for after her birth. I would say a big part of why I was able to follow gentle parenting, respectful parenting with Sarangan was the kind of support I got from my family after birth. We are a very close-knit, extended family, which means a lot of women there around me. There were people to take care of me, to take care of my diet, to support me. All of that was there. So I felt very supported after my birth for the first one. Whatever conflict I was going through was within me. After the birth of a second one, which happened in a birth center, the care that I got there was very, very different. Meaning, in the first birth, I also got shivers after the surgery was over. I was in the post-operative room. In the post-op room, I was the only one and I was shivering. There was only one nurse there. So when I said I was shivering, can you turn off the AC? They just turned off the AC, put 2 blankets on me and she went and started writing notes. So I was literally there alone, shivering and with nobody to even share it with. And I was already anesthesia, that local anesthesia is there. I'm already feeling very separated. My child was not there with me. The child was in another place, and it was just me alone without my child. Suddenly I'm no longer pregnant, and I've gone through such a huge surgery, and I'm alone, lying there alone. I felt very orphaned. That's literally how I felt. My entire family, it was early in the morning, but there were 30 people standing outside just for me, but I don't have access to them. That's the kind of healthcare that we have. But after the second one, in the exact 20-30 minutes, I started shivering. After the birth energy, like after the birthing was over, I started shivering again, and this time I had like 4-5 people completely surrounding me, helping me. Blankets podranga, they're rubbing my feet and nose, somebody's holding my head, somebody's calming me, somebody's giving me hot water, somebody's giving me hot chocolate. So I really felt so cared for and adored. I felt like I'm the queen of the entire universe. Avadingra feeling I got after this kind of a birth, and I felt very nourished and nurtured at a birth home than I felt in an institution. So that one incident and that comparison, like, oh my god, I felt like an orphan there, and now here I'm feeling like the queen of the world. That really transformed the way I felt as a woman in general, and how I felt like a parent. So I wanted to give that same kind of nurturing and care for my children also. So yeah, it makes a profound difference. The post-operative time, the postpartum of a mother, all of that. And I had somebody visiting me from the center every day consistently for a week, so I could sit and talk with her. So there was a lot of space and time for me to recover my physical health, my emotional health, and my psychological health, because after pregnancy moonume change agudhu. So it's very important that the postpartum stage of a mother is it's created a lot of awareness around. அது பற்றி கண்டிப்பாக எல்லாரும் பேசணும். After birth, every mother needs to talk about her postpartum to other people. Yeah, I went through a phase of blues, postpartum blues டெஃபினட்டாக இருந்தது. ஃபஸ்ட் சைல்டுக்கு ஒரு மாதிரி அல்காச் வர்றது, சேட் ஆகிறது, ஈவினிங்ஸ் ஆனால் ரொம்ப சஃபகேட் ஆகிற மாதிரி ஃபீலிங் I had for the first one, for the first few months I had. For the second one, there was nothing. Transition was very smooth. I attribute a lot of that to the kind of birth and the support that I had immediately after birth. So that plays a very important role. And get help. Like எனக்கு கஷ்டமா இருக்கு, I want somebody to listen to me. எனக்கு இப்படி இருக்குது, எனக்கு I was not this person. I don't feel like myself. I feel very burdened by this pregnancy, by this motherhood, by I feel like I'm not able to connect with my child. இந்த மாதிரி any symptoms that you have, I don't feel like I want to be a mother at all. I feel like leaving all this and running away. Anything that you feel, you don't have to feel ashamed about. Please reach out and ask for help. Speak to somebody. There are a lot of people working in the postpartum field also these days. So you can reach out and ask for help, and they will be able to help you. And nobody should tell you that it's சரியாயிரும், போக போக சரியாயிரும், இப்படி தான் இருந்துச்சு எனக்கும். So that is not the right way to support a postpartum mother.